Hello there, listeners and viewers of our own little game table Waddle. Welcome. My name is Anna, and I will be your host for this episode. I am honored and grateful that you have joined me at our table. Today, the Game Table Podcast wraps up our week of reviews of tiny and small box games from Allplay with Waddle. Designed by Corne van Moorsel and artwork created by Annika Gavril and Daniel Profiri. Waddle is a 2 to 5 player placement management game. It really focuses on getting the Waddles back together. And when we gather as Waddles, it is very important that we eat. Food is an important part of any gathering. And so Waddle is all about timing your placements just right to group your own together, while also making sure that you show up in numbers at the various fishing pools to gain the most fish. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about how this game plays. So in Waddle, you're going to control a group of penguins on the ice. And coincidentally, a group of penguins on ice is called a Waddle. I didn't know that before reviewing this game. So the penguins are a different species, actually, and there's different colors, 5 different colors. At the start of the game, you will take these ice hexes and you will arrange them in the closest thing to a circle that you can come up with. There's some ice hexes that are used every game, and there's some that you will add if you have more than 3 players. After you get all the hexes arranged in a rough circle pattern, you will notice that some of the hexes are ice hexes and some are blue pool hexes, each with a number inside of them. You will pick a color and place the corresponding marble in a little ice slide cardboard cutout that represents the turn order. Then you will start placing penguins around the hex that's numbered 1 in turn order. When that hex is filled up, you'll move on to placing penguins around the hex numbered 2, all the way up until the hex that is numbered 20. On your turn, you actually have 2 choices. You may either place a penguin somewhere around the hex that is the hex for that round, or you can choose to forego your turn and instead move your marble over to the other ice slide ramp. This ends your turn for that round, but it guarantees that you will get the first turn on the next round when the active hex switches to the next number. At the end of a round, if nobody has gone over to the other ice slide, turn order continues just as it has before. But if somebody has gone over to the other ice slide, then in turn order, all the other marbles will get moved over to the other ice slide behind that person, and that will be the new turn order. Play will continue until every single ice tile has a penguin on it, and then you will score. You score for how big your waddles are. So every single waddle, which is a group of penguins, will score, and the larger the waddle, the more you can score. So for example, just one penguin by his poor little self only scores 1 victory point. All the way up to, if you have 10 or more penguins that are grouped together, they will score you 55 victory points. After that, you will then score based on the number of fish that you have provided for your penguin family. So every single area of the ice that is shaded blue forms a pool. And if blue hexes are connected, then the pool is bigger. Or if it's just one hex that's blue, then that's a smaller pool. Some of the pools will have yellow numbers on top of fish. And whoever has the most penguins around the pools that have the yellow numbers with the fish, will score that many victory points. Whoever is second place, if there is another yellow numbered fish tile in the pool, will get second place, and on down the line. We had one game where there were actually 4 different numbers in a pool, and so everybody got some points because we were playing a 4-player game then. Then you will add up all of those to the numbers from your waddle and the numbers from whatever fish you ate, and the highest number wins, because that is the most successful family that also fed their family. So now that you know a little bit about how to play, let's get to our review. So first I want to talk about the artwork on this game, because artwork is something that draws a lot of people to a game. I know I was drawn initially to this game because it's penguins, and who doesn't love penguins? They're adorable. But each penguin, there's five players, 5 penguin groups in this game. Each penguin is actually a different species and also a different color. So that's a really cool artwork thing that they threw in there. Also, the hexes are decorated like they are cracking ice, which I found very funny because the hexes are actually a little bit thin. The cardboard's thinner than some other hex games that I have played in the past. And so the hexes did kind of shift or slide apart, but it kind of made me feel like, oh, I'm standing on cracking ice. And you've got these little cracks that go all through the ice, if you can kind of see on the video here as well. So, and of course, the coolest kind of artwork component is the ice slide that you build, which even tilts a little bit downward and it rolls all the way down. And whichever is the active ice slide has a little token at the bottom that has a splash. And so the penguins are sliding down and splashing into the water, which is really fun. So it's a cute little game. Fits in a really tiny little box, but also has some neat art components in there. And it is very obvious to me that this game was put together by a penguin lover because, you know, you've got the correct name for the penguin groups, the Waddles, you got the different species, you got all these cute little penguin things in there. And the game plays very smoothly and very quickly. It's a wonderful thing about this game. We were able to open it up. The rule book is just this small little trifold that you can read in 5 minutes. And even some of the rules that we weren't as sure about, we were like, oh man, at the end of every round, we've got to figure this stuff out. No, you don't. It's very smooth. At the end of every round, you just keep going or move the marbles. That's it. So very smooth, very fast. I would say maybe halfway through our very first game, even our kids were taking the lead and moving the round trackers and moving the marbles back to the back of the line after they'd went. And I think it plays fast because there's not too much to think about each turn. So if you're placing around the ice hexes or the pool hexes, there's only 6 possible spots that anybody could go on their turn. And that gets less and less as the game goes on because you cannot place more than 1 penguin on an ice hex. And so later on in the game, you'll find that the active hex already has several things filled up because of being next to other ones. And so it plays really fast. Something I really liked about this game as I was playing it is the multiple strategy layers. Now, I want you to hear me that this is a light strategy game. It's not a heavy strategy game. And a lot of times in a light strategy game, there's one thing to think about. And I thought it was so cool that in this light strategy game that really does play in 15 minutes, even our very first game when we were learning it with 5 people and kids that were below the recommended age of 8+ for this game, even that game only took about half an hour. So it does play fast. However, there are multiple layers of strategy in this tiny little game. You got to think about, am I going to prioritize being the majority around this fish pool, or am I going to prioritize making my Waddle bigger? Because both of those are going to give you points. Another really cool strategy part is, when is it best to bail out and not take a turn and instead go first? Maybe you realize that the next pool that you're going to be placing penguins around is one that would really add to your score in terms of fish or waddles. And so you decide not to even play around the one everybody's playing around right now, but to go first for next time. There's the layer strategy of noticing which pools actually have fish in them, because some of them don't. And so what's the point of placing around those pools unless it's going to add to something else that you have? Or even when it pays to get second or third place around a fish pool, because second or third place also give you a lot of fish. And so it was really fun to explore all these different layers of strategy. I remember when we first started playing, we were like, why would you ever bail out to get first player and miss a turn? And then by halfway through the game or so, we were like, man, this is a really important decision. When do you bail out? Because you're looking down the line and you know what numbers are going to come next, and if it's going to be more important to go first for those coming numbers. Also, as we played, we developed more strategy in our player interaction. So you're placing your own penguins on the ice, but there's a good deal of player interaction in this game because you're making the choice at any point in time to decide something that's going to be better for you, to decide something, for example, that's going to block somebody else. So if you notice somebody else is getting a group, you can block their Waddle, break them up so they can't get a group. And if you notice somebody else is about to beat you around a fish pool, you might place your 2 penguin piece. So every color has 2 tiles that are actually worth 2 penguins instead of 1. And so that can help you get the majority. So you got to be really strategic when you place that. And it's a player interaction move, right? Because suddenly you're only placing once, but you've got 2 more penguins, and it can be really, really clinch in getting some of those fish pools. And there's even a little bit of player interaction in deciding when to move over and be the first player, because if everybody moves over to the first player, or if everybody moves over to the second ice slide and forfeits their turn, the last person actually cannot leave until every single ice hex is filled around the pool. So we played one game where everybody bailed because it wasn't a pool that had fish in it. And my daughter had to sit there and just play 3 of her penguins around the pond because she had to fill it up before she could move on. And she actually ended up winning that game because she had such a huge waddle from all of us bailing and her having to place those penguins. So again, good deal of strategy and a good deal of player interaction, because if we hadn't left but decided to block her instead, then she wouldn't have gotten that waddle. I'd say one of my favorite mechanics for this game is the ice slide is a genius idea for turn order. And it's done in such a cool way where you just build this little ice slide out of cardboard, there's cutouts, and the marbles roll down. It's so smooth and so easy to set up. I also really liked that there were 2 different ways to score. Now, the waddles score bigger, but they are harder to get because, again, everybody's playing on the same very limited number of hexes around each square every round. And so, but it's interesting to try to keep in mind 2 different ways to score, and the strategy in sacrificing your turn to go ahead and scout ahead to be able to go first were some of my favorite mechanics for this game. So we always try to think about anything that we might improve about this game, anything the game might be lacking as well. And I would say I enjoyed this game for what it is. I'm not going to say there was something that specifically annoyed me, except for potentially the hexes moving apart. I know I mentioned that already, that the hexes were thin, and so they kind of moved apart. But I did think about what could make this game better. And I was interested that you've got different species for penguins, but you don't have optional special powers for penguins, for example, or items. I was even surprised that the start of the game was just arrange the ice hexes however you want, and there wasn't some sort of strategy in placing the hexes. So there were some interesting things. Obviously, those things would make the game longer, but I wonder what the game would have been like if it had had those things. I'd say the only thing that I think maybe would have made our play better is if there had been maybe some special powers for the penguins or something like that. Maybe an expansion in the future or a second edition of the game could explore that. And so I know I'm coming up with all sorts of wonderful ideas of my own, but actually this game does already have an expansion. I know. Amazing, right? It's called Orcas and Ice Flows. So it's a small little expansion, but it actually adds 3 new components to the game. So it adds ice flows, which are your color and can be placed in the water to kind of connect waddles, which is excellent, make you have bigger groups. It adds eggs, which you have to place, but then they can give you special powers, like allowing you to place penguins farther away from the hex that you're supposed to be playing around, for example. And it adds orcas. The orcas are placed at the start of the game, and they actually give you negative points if you're the penguin group that has the most around the orca pool, because, orcas eat penguins. So anyway, unfortunately, the game that we played did not have this expansion, but that is an option for any of you that love this game. And each of those 3 components that are in this one expansion add another level to the strategy, another thing to think about. So it can kind of deepen your strategy a little bit. And I was also, I'll tell you, this was not a bad thing. It was actually a good thing. But the ice filled up a lot faster than you think it's going to. Getting through those first few hexes, especially if they're not connected to a bunch of pools, can take a while because it's 6 spots around an active hex. But then once you get to the end of the game, you could get to a number that already has everything filled around it because it was filled as you're placing around other numbers. And so that was surprising to me. We were kind of feeling like we were lagging in the first part of the game when we first played and thinking, man, this is going to end up being a long game. And then it didn't. It went super fast. So that was a pro. Something I thought was going to be a con, like the slow play at the start, actually turned into a pro because it really picks up speed as you're going down and the ice fills up faster than you think. Something that really did impress me about the game is that it plays well at every single player count. And there's not too many games that we can say that about. So a lot of times when I see 5-player games, I think, oh, this game plays good at 4, and they just wanted to expand it to 5, right? And sometimes when you expand 4-player games to 5 players, they take a lot longer, or they feel a little bit clunky. This one plays so smooth at 5. It played so smooth at 4. It plays really, really well. And in fact, there's even some 2-player rules variations to help it play very, very well, even at 2 players. So that's a fun part about this game, is anywhere from 2 to 5 players, you're going to get the same game experience and you're going to get the same level of fun. So I'd say I definitely recommend this game. I would recommend it for penguin lovers. I would recommend it for kids. We did play it with our 5, 7, and 8-year-old. And the 5-year-old, we would have to point out some strategy to her sometimes. We would have to say, oh, hey, if you go here, then you'll get a larger group. But I'd say a couple plays in, she was saying, oh, I'm going to go here and break up my sister's group. Or, oh, I'm going to go here because this ice hex actually touches 2 pools. And so it's going to give me a penguin around both pools in terms of scoring fish later. Even it says 8+, but even our 5-year-old was able to pick up on it. Definitely our 7 and 9-year-old loved it. And I just think, penguin games should be shared with kids, right? It's fun. I would also recommend it again for anybody that likes light strategy, for anybody that wants a strategy game that also plays really smooth and quick and is incredibly easy to learn the rules in and just dive right in. So those are my thoughts, and hopefully that helps some of you that are looking for a quick game to play with friends, with kids, with family over this Christmas and holiday season. Oh, and also, since we're on video now, I can show you guys this really cool blanket back here that I made. Jared, here, you can see a little bit better. So, check that out. I know, it's so cool. So, yeah, all the video watchers got an extra little bonus thing there. Thank you so much for watching or for listening. For our regular listeners in our podcast, we hope that you have enjoyed this week of reviewing all sorts of little Allplay games. If you have feedback or you want to give us your thoughts on the game, we would love to hear from you. Links to our socials are in the description. And if you don't like socials, hey, I get it. Check out our website instead at thegametablepodcast.com, or shoot us an email at thegametablepodcast@gmail.com, or find us on BGG. All of these links are also available in the description. 5-star reviews, subscribing in your podcast player of choice, liking this video, and subscribing on YouTube, following us on socials, and joining the conversation on Discord. These heroic actions are so immensely helpful in growing this podcast, and we appreciate every single one of you that does that. Special thanks to Ashley McCaffrey for our cover art, and Alexi Chislin for the How to Play background music. In the meantime, may your dice rolls and your card draws be blessed, and your experiences at the table be ones to remember forever.